I've been driving trucks for over 12 years now, mostly regional deliveries across Nevada and Utah. Long stretches of road, few stops, and hours of silence. You get used to the emptiness out there. Some nights it feels peaceful. Other nights it feels like the desert is watching you. This happened about 2 years ago, a night I'll never forget. It was mid-October, a cold, windless night. I left Reno around 11 p.m., heading east toward Elko with a load of auto parts. The trip usually takes about 5 hours. I liked driving at night. The traffic was lighter and there was something calming about the hum of the tires on the asphalt. That night, though, something just felt off. From the moment I hit the highway, the air felt strange, heavy like it was pressing against the windshield. My radio started acting up too. Static kept interrupting every station, even though the sky was completely clear and the stars were out. I turned it off eventually. The silence was easier to handle. A little after 1 a.m., I was somewhere between Battle Mountain and Carlin, the most isolated part of the route. You can go 30-40 miles without seeing another car. That's when I saw him. A man walking on the right shoulder of the highway. At first, I thought he might have been a hitchhiker, but there was something wrong about it. He wasn't walking like someone trying to flag a ride. He was just drifting slow, steady steps, head slightly down. He wore jeans and a dark jacket and nothing unusual, but he didn't have a flashlight or even a phone light. Out there at that hour, that's dangerous. Coyotes cold, even just tripping on the shoulder could kill you. So I slowed down and pulled onto the side of the road. My headlight stretched out across the dirt and lit him up in the beam. "Hey man," I called out through the open window. "You okay? Need some help?" He didn't react. Didn't even turn his head at first. I tried again, louder. "Hey, you stranded or something?" That's when he stopped walking. For a second or two, he just stood there, facing away from me. Then he slowly turned his head, and I swear, his eyes caught the headlights in a way I'll never forget. Not like how animal eyes reflect light. This was brighter, like two polished stones catching a flash. He just stared at me. No blink. No expression. I remember gripping the steering wheel tighter, realizing how completely alone I was out there. No houses, no other headlights for miles. Just this man staring. Then he started smiling. Not a friendly smile. It was too slow, too controlled. It stretched across his face like someone remembering how to imitate human emotion. That's when my instincts kicked in. I rolled up my window and pressed the gas, not even checking the mirror at first. When I finally did, maybe 100 feet down the road, he was standing dead center in the lane, directly in my headlights facing me. I don't know how to explain it, but the sight of him standing there perfectly still watching me drive away, it made my stomach twist in ways I can't describe. I didn't stop again for at least 20 miles. My pulse was pounding the entire time. Every time I looked in the mirror, I half expected to see those eyes glowing behind me. Eventually, I pulled into a 24-hour gas station on the edge of Elko. The lights felt comforting after all that darkness. The clerk behind the counter was a middle-aged guy with glasses, reading a magazine. He looked up when I came in and said, "Long night?" "Yeah," I said, still catching my breath. "You ever see anyone walking out on Highway 80 this late?" He froze. What did he look like? I told him, jeans, jacket, no bag, no light. He went quiet for a moment, then said, "You saw him too?" I frowned. "What do you mean, him?" He sighed and said, "A few drivers come through here saying the same thing. Always around 1 a.m., same stretch of road. Some say he tries to wave them down. Others say he just stands there. Nobody ever stops twice." He told me one trucker swore he'd given the man a ride years ago, picked him up near Battle Mountain, said the guy didn't talk the whole time, just stared straight ahead. Then when the driver turned to ask him something, the seat was empty. I didn't know whether to believe it, but something about the way that clerk said it, quiet, serious, it made my skin crawl. I filled up my tank, grabbed a coffee, and tried to laugh it off. Ghost stories, right? But as I was getting back into my truck, I noticed something that made me freeze again. On the passenger side window, faint but visible in the condensation, there was the outline of a handprint. 5 long fingers. Perfectly pressed. The thing is, I hadn't rolled down that window all night. I wiped it away and drove the rest of the way in silence. I've done that route dozens of times since then, but never again after midnight. There's something about that desert, that lonely stretch of road, that makes me feel like some people never really left it. And every time I pass that spot, I can't help but check the shoulder, just in case he's still walking. This story came from a woman named Claire, a long-haul trucker who used to post on a forum I followed years ago. She was one of those drivers who genuinely loved the road, the solitude, the freedom, the silence of the highway at night. But the story she shared one winter changed the way a lot of truckers looked at the open road. It's the reason many of them refuse to drive alone past midnight anymore. Claire had been on the job for nearly a decade. She hauled all kinds of freight across the Midwest, from Missouri to Utah and sometimes down through Texas. She said she never scared easily. She'd seen wrecks, strange lights, drunk hitchhikers, you name it. But this was different. It was the middle of February, cold and clear. She was driving east through Kansas, hauling a trailer of produce. The clock on her dash read 2:14 a.m. She was somewhere between Salina and Topeka, the kind of long, dead stretch where the only thing you see for miles are your own headlights and the occasional sign creaking in the wind. Her radio had been off for a while. She liked to keep things quiet at night. The hum of the diesel engine and the soft rattle of her thermos were the only sounds in that small, metal world. But out of habit, she glanced up at her rearview mirror. For a split second, she saw something move in the darkness behind her, something inside the cab. It looked like a shape, a dark, uneven shadow, sitting on the mattress of her sleeper bunk. She froze. Her mind tried to make sense of it. Maybe it was her jacket or her duffel bag, or something hanging funny in the light. But then the truck hit a small dip in the road, and she saw it move again, swaying slightly. Like weight shifting, her stomach dropped. She turned off the cruise control, gripped the wheel tighter, and flicked the dome light on. Nothing. Just her folded blanket, her backpack, and the hanging jacket exactly where she'd left them. Claire forced a nervous laugh. She was tired, she told herself. Long hours, empty roads, shadows playing tricks, but 5 minutes later, she felt something subtle but real. The truck shifted, a small, quick movement like someone leaning their weight to one side on the mattress. She checked her mirrors again, still empty highway. Not a single car behind or ahead for miles. Her breathing got shallow. The noise from the tires seemed louder now, echoing in the quiet cab. She swallowed hard and reached over to grab her flashlight from the cup holder. "All right," she whispered to herself, trying to sound calm. "You're just tired. You just need a break." But when she turned in her seat and aimed the flashlight toward the sleeper, she caught something that made her skin crawl. The small vent window above her bunk, the one she always kept locked, was cracked open about an inch. And the metal screen was bent outward like someone had pried it loose from the outside. She just stared at it, frozen. Her flashlight trembled in her hand. Then she heard it, the faintest sound coming from behind her seat. A slow, soft dragging like something sliding across the sheets. She didn't think. She slammed her foot on the brake, jerking the truck onto the shoulder. The tires screeched. The cargo clanked in the trailer, and her coffee spilled all over the dash. She spun around, heart hammering, ready to swing the flashlight at whatever was there. Nothing, just silence. But now that she was stopped, she noticed something else in the smell. It was faint, but distinct and damp earth like mud after rain. And something else underneath it. Something metallic. She flicked the dome light on again and forced herself to check. She leaned into the sleeper, lifted the blanket, even checked under the bunk. Nothing. But when she crouched down, she saw faint smudges on the vinyl floor, muddy footprints, small, bare, human. Her breath caught in her throat. She bolted upright, slammed the cab door shut, locked them, and floored it down the highway again. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely keep the truck steady. Every sound, the creak of the dashboard, the rattle of the mirror, made her flinch. She didn't stop until she reached a truck stop an hour later. The lot was half empty, the lights buzzing overhead. She pulled in beside another rig, killed the engine, and sat there in silence for a long time, trying to convince herself she wasn't losing her mind. Eventually, she got out and went inside the diner connected to the stop. The waitress on the night shift looked up from her phone and asked if she was all right. Said she looked pale. Claire didn't want to sound crazy, but she told her what happened. The noise, the window, the footprints. The waitress frowned and said, "You should call the sheriff's office. We've had break-ins around here before. People hiding in trailers or cabs trying to hitch a ride. So Claire did. 2 deputies came out to the truck about 20 minutes later. They searched the cab and trailer carefully, even checked under the frame with flashlights. Nothing. But one of them, a younger guy, crouched under the passenger side and found something stuck near the vent. A scrap of dark fabric, like part of a torn hoodie. He looked up at Claire and said, "You sure you didn't stop anywhere before this? Rest area, truck pull-off, anything?" She shook her head. "No, I didn't stop all night." He frowned, glancing at his partner. "Then how'd they get in?" "They took the fabric and left after giving her a report number." But Claire couldn't bring herself to stay there. She left that same night and drove straight to a company depot in Topeka, where she parked and slept in the office instead of her cab. When she got up the next morning, she went to check the truck again, and that's when she saw them. More footprints, not just 1 or 2. Half a dozen muddy, barefoot prints on the floor of her sleeper compartment. Only this time they weren't facing in. They were facing out. She quit long-haul trucking 3 weeks later. Sold her rig, took a local driving job instead. She said that even years later she can't look into a rearview mirror for too long, because sometimes if the light hits it just right, she swears she can still see the faint outline of someone sitting quietly in the back, watching. In 2019, a few friends and I decided to take a road trip from Chicago to Nashville during spring break. There were 4 of us: me, Mark, Josh, and Kevin. We were broke college students trying to make the most of a week off. So we crammed into my beat-up Honda Civic, took turns driving, and planned to crash wherever we could find a cheap room. That night, somewhere south of Evansville, we'd been driving for nearly 10 straight hours. The air outside was foggy, and the highway felt endless. Just black asphalt, white lines, and our headlights cutting through the mist. By the time the clock hit 11:45 p.m., we were exhausted and decided to find a place to stay before continuing the next morning. Mark searched on his phone for motels nearby, but there wasn't much. Just one listing that popped up. The Maple Rest Inn. Vacancy. There were no reviews, no pictures, nothing but an address. But it was cheap and we didn't feel like sleeping in the car. So we pulled off Highway 41 about 10 minutes later, taking a small side road lined with dead trees and old billboards. The fog got thicker the deeper we went. It muffled the sound of the engine and made everything look washed out like a faded photograph. Then we saw it. A flickering neon sign ahead, glowing a dull red. Maple Rest Inn. The place looked ancient. There were only 2 cars in the cracked parking lot, both covered in dust and leaves like they hadn't moved in weeks. The building was 1 story, maybe 10 rooms total, with paint peeling off the walls and yellow light spilling from the office window. We exchanged nervous laughs. Josh said, "Man, this looks like one of those murder motel stories." Kevin shrugged. "We just need a bed, bro. We'll be gone by sunrise." When we walked inside the lobby, it was dead quiet. The air smelled like mold and cheap cleaning spray. There was an old bell on the counter, so I rang it. Nothing. A few seconds later, from somewhere in the back room, I heard slow footsteps approaching. An older woman came out, maybe late 60s. She was small, with thin gray hair tied back and heavy bags under her eyes. Her voice was calm, almost rehearsed. She said, "Room 7's available. Cash only." Mark paid her $30 and she slid the key across the counter without another word. Her nails were long, cracked, and dirty. I remember that detail so clearly. We thanked her and went to the room. Room 7 was at the far end of the row, near a broken vending machine that buzzed constantly. The second we opened the door, a musty smell hit us, like damp carpet and something faintly metallic underneath. The room was small and old-fashioned. 1 queen bed and 1 fold-out cot. The wallpaper was faded green with stains near the ceiling. The light flickered every few seconds and the heater made this low rattling sound that never stopped. We were too tired to complain. We tossed our bags down and collapsed. I must have fallen asleep around 2:30 a.m. At 3:17 I woke up. No reason, just this uneasy feeling in my gut, that weird awareness you get when you know something's not right. The heater was off now. The room was cold, and then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps right outside our door. They'd stop, then start again. Like someone pacing. I sat up and looked toward the door. The small gap at the bottom was glowing faintly from the hallway light. I could see a shadow moving back and forth across it. Then came the knock. 3 dull knocks, soft, almost polite. "Hello?" I whispered. No answer. Josh stirred in his sleep and Mark groaned. "Dude, what is it?" "There's someone outside," I whispered. Mark rubbed his eyes. "Probably the manager." The knock came again, this time slower. Then softer, like fingertips instead of knuckles. We both froze. I crept to the peephole and looked through. The hallway was empty, except for that single flickering light near the end. But then something made my heart stop. There was movement in the reflection of the door. Faint, almost like someone leaning out of sight just to the side. I backed away immediately. That's when the knocking stopped. Silence. We waited. Maybe 30 seconds. And then from the bathroom we heard it. Tap, tap, tap. It sounded like someone gently tapping the mirror with their fingernails. Mark was sitting up now, wide awake, staring toward the bathroom. The door was slightly open and behind it was darkness. "Who's in there?" he whispered. No answer. Then came a slow creak, like the sound of a hinge straining. The bathroom door began to move just a little, inch by inch. That was enough for us. Mark jumped up, grabbed the key, and we bolted. We didn't even pack our stuff. We just ran out, slammed the door behind us, and sprinted to the car. The air outside was freezing, and the fog seemed even thicker now. The neon sign was still flickering above the office, casting red light over the empty parking lot. I looked toward the lobby as we ran past and saw the old woman standing there behind the glass. No expression, no movement, just staring straight at us. We jumped into the car, engine struggling to start, and peeled out of that lot as fast as we could. No one said a word for 20 minutes. We just drove, headlights cutting through fog that felt endless. When we finally found a 24-hour diner, we stopped to catch our breath. The waitress there, a friendly woman in her 40s, asked if we were staying nearby. I said, "We were at the Maple Rest Inn off Highway 41. She froze, her smile fading. You mean that old place?" "Yeah," I said. "Just got out of there. Weirdest night of my life." She leaned closer and whispered, "Honey, that place burned down years ago. Whole family died inside. Husband shot his wife and kid before setting the place on fire. Nobody rebuilt it," Mark laughed nervously. No, it's there. We just stayed in it." But she shook her head, serious. "It's gone. It's been gone since 2014. We didn't believe her, not at first. So after we slept a few hours in the car, we drove back that morning. Same road, same turnoff, only this time, there was nothing. No building, no parking lot. Just an empty clearing surrounded by trees and an old signpost with no sign attached. The ground was scorched in places, like something had burned there long ago." Mark threw up on the side of the road. We didn't talk much after that. Even now, years later, I still drive that route sometimes for work. And every once in a while, when the night is cold and fog rolls in, I swear I can see a faint red flicker through the trees. A glowing sign in the dark that shouldn't be there. And when I see it, I don't slow down. I just keep driving.